morning, good afternoon, good evening. Said I was going to change things up and do streaming 2 times a week, and this is the start of it. My drink is this morning is coffee, and will be every Monday morning. Had to set the machine last night so I could wake up, and it was already made, and that's all good. So I'll be drinking copious amounts of coffee because it's 6 in the morning for me. Though I am typically an early riser, so this isn't too bad for me. So yeah, we'll just keep. I'm going to try this out, see how this works for a while, and if this schedule doesn't work, I'll adjust and try something else. But as I've said before, I like this. I enjoy it. I find streaming to be kind of fun, and I do want to get into a little bit more branding and a little bit more of making this. Yeah, I don't want to go too extreme, but make it a little bit more. I don't know, consistent. I definitely want to have a longer intro video for what it's worth and have a countdown going there and stuff like that. Anyway, all right. So without further ado, I do have my screen shared, I believe. So if I do this, there we go. Good, good. All right. So what's on the docket this morning? Well, first of all, what's on the docket is I got to make sure that I stop on time because unlike a Thursday night where I can kind of go to however long I want, my kids do need to get to school this morning. So I do have a hard stop at around 7:30 for me. And I might even stop a little bit sooner than that. So, but this is what I have planned for this morning, which is with that analyzer I wrote in the last stream. I want to add in some configurations. So I already looked up some configuration resources, and it doesn't seem like it'll be too hard. It'll be interesting to see how this works with testing with an analyzer, because I haven't done that yet. I don't think I have. So that'll be interesting to see how that works. And then I am going to also put in, excuse me, I'm also going to put in an addition to this. This analyzer looks to see how many parameters you have in a method because somebody figured out like what's the maximum. And I decided this past weekend to do how many generic methods, how many generic parameters can you have to a method? And I found it out, and it's this. And let's see if I can put in the gist or gist, whatever. Yeah, I think it's this one. So that in the comments. So that's the one that I did this weekend, and that just shows you the code that I wrote to see how many could you actually. And what's interesting about what I did is, or at least the results that I found, is the one for the number of parameters to a method. It fell over on the invocation side first, I believe. So you could actually generate more in C#, but you couldn't invoke such a method in code. The invocation limit was 8,912 or something like that. This is the reverse. The compilation failed. So you might actually be able to do more if you were willing to generate it using IL or something like that. But I was like, nah, I'm not curious about that. That's as far as I wanted to go with it. So I'm going to do that. And then if I have time left on at the end, I'm going to start looking at this, which is there's this library that I have called Rocks, which is a mocking library. I've been working on this for almost 7 years now. And it's now in source generator format. And I always like showing this. Let me bring this up here. Yes, this. Okay. So I'll put that link in the chat as well. And I'll put this up over here. So this is a site called Benchmark MockNet, which does a bunch of benchmarking tests on all these different mocking libraries. And this is done by Steve Desmond. And what's interesting is, I actually put in my Rocks library a couple of years ago. And that's when it was actually generating C# code, but then it would compile. This was all done at runtime, so then compile it. Like the compiler API part of it was very, very small. But then when source generators came on, I changed it to being a source generator. Either way, what's interesting is that in all the tests, the rocks approach is the fastest and it consumes the least amount of memory. And I always like showing this because it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. That there is a part of me that wants to look at what's the cost associated with actually generating a mock, because it, there is that cost, and once you do it, you don't have to do it again. At least I hope that the way this all works with source generators is that I don't have to write it again. But all the benchmarks show this except one, and that's the construction one. And I've looked at this before, but I do want to do this on a stream and look at it again to say, is there a way to potentially reduce the amount of allocations or reduce the time? So that's the other thing I want to look at. So if, again, I have time this morning. Okay. I do have to make sure that, like I said, my kids are going to be up this morning and about, and my wife currently has a sinus infection and isn't feeling the best. So I got to make sure that I got my phone out, and that I'll be kind of texting them and saying, okay, come on, you guys got to get up, blah, blah, blah. They're teenagers. They're fun to get up in the morning. Maybe they should start drinking coffee like I do. That might help. All right. So, this is again is the code that I showed in the gist or the gist or whatever. And basically to figure out, create a class with a method with a whole bunch of generic parameters. And then can you compile it? And if you can, then can you actually invoke it? And like I said, the compiler portion of it fails before the invocation part of it. So there may be a curious part of me at some point to say what's like the maximum number of generic parameters you can get even outside of C#, but that's not what I was concerned about, because I'm more concerned about what can you actually do within C#. So set this up, and this should already be at the right branch that I was working at before. So one of the things that I wanted to do is the parameter count. Like I said, is I want to put in support for configuration. Okay. And the reason I want to do this is because right now the rules are hard coded to these values. Okay. You may want to say, you know what, the maximum I want that anybody should ever do is 16, and make this 8 and make this 4, something like that. And so we should have configuration in there, but also to have the sense in there to say, okay, well, if you give me like incorrect values or something like that, then we're just gonna we'll give you another diagnostic. So I think the way I want to handle this is I have a class here. Now, do I want to have like a separate folder for all the like if I'm going to start doing more configuration on these analyzers, would I want to put them in a separate folder or not? I think for now I'm going to put it in here, though this did lead to a question off the side, which is, should I arguably have all of the analyzers in like an analyzers folder and the code fixes in a code fixes folder? Or correspondingly namespaces. I kind of think that that's what I should do. That would be a small thing to do, but that's something I probably should do. So let's do this. How do I want to construct this? Because I could just say, well, I don't care about the configuration. This could also go off and try to, in the constructor, just go to configuration. Probably that makes the most sense. So I am going to Up this. And let's take a look at this documentation. All right. So it's all editor config stuff. So I'm not sure this is actually giving me what I am looking for. Sorry if I'm not speaking, but I'm just, I actually did not look at this. So you could say .NET code quality dot the number dot the API surface, and then whatever your value is, and then you just interpret that value for what it is. I think this other one that I found was a little bit more practical. How you actually use this within C#. So we use the analyzer config options provider, right? So .diagnostic rule ID and then attribute name. So something like this. Okay, that makes sense. So you can't, okay. Not the best way to format it. So you basically give it the whole thing. And so we're going to want something to give us the whatever this is called. And then we in turn are going to try to get values and stuff like that. Okay, I think that makes sense. So this is analyze config option provider. So here, what we're going to say is internal method parameter account handling configuration provider. Okay, so the first thing I want to do here is say, and since it's internal, I'm going to assume that what you're giving me is actually not null. Don't have to worry about that. Yeah, you're telling me it's not used. It will be. Okay, so we want to find the values, right? So if I come down here, what you do is you say config, no, provider dot try get options. That's what I actually really want, is whatever this is. Analyzer config options. Okay. And then this will be options. There we go. And then this should have the try get value, which it does. So we're getting this huge string key here. No, I just copied this. Come on. And then what's my rule? This is what's the number for it? Oh crap. I have 13 and I have 12 and I have 11. Just funny, don't go in the right order, but that's wait, this is info. Oh no. Yeah, I got these in the wrong thing. Okay. Hold on. Info has warning. And then we have a warning. Put the classes in the wrong file. There we go. Now that makes more sense. Either way, each one has a different number. So, okay, fine. The these right now. This one is going to be for, let's do the arrow one first. So this is going to be that ID. So let's have this the right number in here. And then we'll say limit, because that makes sense. Okay. If you get a value here, and that's what we want to parse for the limit, but we don't want to set the property just yet. Okay. Um, so let's do say var error limit equal to out var error value. That's true. And because if we actually had a configured value, now we actually have to parse it. So what we could say here is if that's true, then we say if uint dot try parse error value Huh. You're not gonna let me do this, are you? Yeah. That'd be too cute because that's what do I want to call this? Because I can't think of a good variable name right now. So if that's true, then it's equal to X. Otherwise, it's going to be 8198912. Okay. And else it's that. Else. So if you didn't give me a configuration value, it's that. And that all compiles. Okay. Private const uint default error limit 8 2. So we'll say here okay. And then we could do the same for the other three. So we have a warning limit. Warning limit. And this would be warning here. This would be warning value. And there's probably a way I could yeah, I could do something like static uint get value. And I could say string, what's the ID? And then uint default value. Okay. And the reason I'm considering doing this, oh crap, I can't make it a static. I'd actually have to pass in the so here, excuse me, I pass in the ID and then the limit. And then we would just say here, configuration value. And then this will just be value because I'm too tired right now to think of it. This will now be default value. So become default value. Okay. So now here in the error limit, I could just say value. What I'm going to pass in is this error value and then the default limit. Oh, and then also it needs the options. There we go. So not that big of a deal, but um, and then this would be warning and then default warning limit is going to be 16. And then we're going to need an info limit. Which, yep, that's going to be the info here and then the info here. There. Now that's part of it. And I don't have that up here yet, but I will. Am I actually just calling it info? Yeah, I was. Okay, fine. Info, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. All right. One thing I just realized is that these are going to have to change so that the message is actually taking the what is discovered to be the actual value. So we're going to have to actually pass in the parameter limit count. Yeah, we'll get there. This is a small feature, but it's pervasive. So, all right. One other thing I need to add here is an internal immutable array of diagnostics. Diagnostic. Did you do it? Yes, you did. Okay. Diagnostics. And the reason why I'm doing this is because, as you can see here, I'm going to start to actually build up diagnostics to say, if there's certain conditions that haven't been met. So first thing is the error limit can't actually be, that's actually bound by the top value. So we can't go beyond that. So if error limit is greater than error limit, I'm going to create diagnostic. Okay. Else, if warning limit is greater than error limit, even equal to diagnostic. And then if the info limit is greater than equal to the warning, be another diagnostic. Now, so if I had like 12,000 as the error limit, that first one's going to error out. But I don't want to do else ifs here. I want to, because you could have this being like 40,000, but then the warning's 40,000, and the info's 60. So you want to report all of them. And we also want to report if any of these values are zeros, because that doesn't make any sense. This is already going to tell you that the bound, like what's greater than or less than the other thing is wrong. But we don't want any of these to be zero. They all have to be at least 1. So and I think if I just looked at info limit as being 0, that should be fine, I think. Because if all 3 of them were 0, then warning limit would, error limit wouldn't be above the default, but warning limit would be equal to error and info would be equal to warning. Um, it's a silly check, but at the same time, it's a correctness check to make sure that you're actually giving me that you're giving me the right value. So you could say if error is equal to 0, create diagnostic. It would be the same for warning limit. And info. Now, the last thing, we'll get to creating diagnostics in a moment. The last thing I want to do is also set all these properties, but do I want to set them if we have diagnostics? So what I could do here is I could say these are nullable. Okay. And they're nullable if, so I want to say var diagnostics is equal to create builder of a diagnostic. We come down here and we say if diagnostic that is equal to 0. In other words, we didn't do any diagnostics. Then we can say this dot info limit, this dot warning, this dot error limit equal to info limit, warning limit, and error limit. And then we'll say this dot diagnostics equal to this dot to mutable. There. Okay, I think that's seems like it's fairly reasonable to me. Of course, now how do we actually, if we say like diagnostics add, we do diagnostic, but it's not as simple as that, right? Yeah, you have to actually. I mean, that's where these descriptors are all coming into play because they're actually the ones that are creating a diagnostic. They're creating a diagnostic descriptor. And then if you come into, for example, parameter count, diagnostic dot create. So what we could do here, diagnostic dot create. We could do a, like, what's the simplest one we can do without actually doing a descriptor? Because I really don't want a descriptor. You could say the ID, and then yeah. So where are we up to with the numbers? 13, right? Yeah. So we'll say trans 14. And diagnostic. I thought descriptor constants. Usage. And then the message. The error limit cannot be greater than, and then we're going to pass in method parameter configuration. Okay. Diagnostic severity. Well, it's an error. Hold on. Just want to check if I'm getting any texts from my wife in the morning, which I'm not. Okay. Okay. So that was a severity. The default severity is interesting that the diagnostic descriptor doesn't seem like you have to put in as much. Like this is string, default severity is enabled by default. So oh, okay. I was reading that wrong. Well, no, that is true warning level. Severity is diagnostic severity warning, otherwise 0. Okay, so 0 is suppressed. No. Okay, so that actually that allows us to create a diagnostic without it allows us to create a diagnostic without without having a descriptor, which I think is fine for what I want to do right now. Okay. Error limit, warning limit. And here, cannot be greater than or equal to, and then we put in error limit. Which is that. Okay. Now, all of these are this one number, 14. That should be okay. That should be fine. Yeah. Because we could have one error and then say one number and then just say like this handles a bunch of configuration cases. Rather than having a number for every one of them. Okay. The wearing limit. Okay. error limit is 0, we can say error limit cannot be equal to 0. Okay. These should all be pretty simple, right? Yeah. And we could put up a, yeah, we're going to want to put up a help URL and put a, this is a little bit copy and pasting, but that's okay. All right, so now if we come out, we have 0, we would be able to set all the values correctly. Otherwise, we have diagnostics to enable. Okay. All right, I think this is pretty good for what I'm looking for. Of course, a lot of this was just copied and pasted code, so but that's fine. That's fine. Just realized that should be 4. Of course, I will eventually test this all out and make sure that's correct. I'm not sure how I'll actually test this out because you probably can't do one of these up. I'm guessing. All right. So what we should be able to do now, at least, okay. I was trying to think of what I want to do next. Is let's come back here. So I want to read analyze action. So in the context, oh, for the tree. Okay. The reason I'm doing all this is because I want to actually say configuration. New that options. There. So now if we say if configuration diagnostics dot length is greater than 0, else. We're going to do this. So here we're going to say for each our diagnostic in configuration diagnostics. Else we do that. Okay, so now here though, what we're going to say is if this is greater than configuration error limit, because now we're not, this will be the warning limit, and this will be the info limit. Oh, crap. Yeah, I just realized something. We got a chicken and an egg problem here. Yeah. We want this to say these are the things that these are the rules that we support. But you actually have to give a diagnostic descriptor to do that. And then down here, though, we want to put in the actual value of the error limit that was found through configuration, and not just the hard-coded one that we have in like here, 4. Crap. Before I forget. This. See if IntelliCode can pick up that I'm going to be doing. Yep. Rule of 2. You. Okay. Oh, that was right. Okay. Yeah, I'm now hitting a kind of a block here because I can't figure out. Well, I guess what I could do is say, you could create it with a message, but the message is going to be different than what I'm giving in the original supported diagnostics. And I don't remember if it's the title that gives you the equivalence key or it's the message. I think it's the title. Hold on. Let me check something here. Rather diagnostic equivalence. You can use the title. Okay, that's what I was looking for. You can use the title of the code action as the equivalence key. However, there are cases where you may desire to have different values. So that's not our title, that's our message. Okay. Sorry, I was getting a little distracted here. So hmm. So I wonder if I'm kind of babbling here. It feels a little dirty, but what I could do is say pass in for all these a 0 value. And then these descriptors will have a read-only string that has a string format with, and then you put the whatever that value is that you're passing in there. But the it's the title that matters. The Well, none of these have code fixes, so that does. Yeah, I'm overthinking this. None of these have code fixes, so because we can't tell you, oh, we can change your method for you and make it only like 3 parameters. That we can't do that. So all right. Well, we're gonna have to do that anyway. So just do that. And then this becomes a read-only static string message. And error, now that I'm reading these messages, methods cannot have. There's a slight, some message that I didn't realize before. So what's he barking at? I think that's, yeah, that should work. Okay. That was the error one. Let's do the warning one. You don't know what that is. What you do now. You don't know what that is. What you do now. No unit. You int. And then this becomes a read-only static string. Except with that. Okay, and then the info. And then we'll say for less. So that. And then that has to change. Okay. We come down here. Oh, this is the dirty part because that's wrong. But What we could do now is say, instead of making another, I think what I want to do here is, instead of having these here, we'll just make them once. Get rid of these, and then we'll come down here and we'll say, where'd you go? So this is error. And this is from configuration, error limit. I'll do like that. Error limit. Oh. I was wondering if there's a way that you could say this property is not null when the count of the diagnostics is equal to 0. Then you know that they're not null. But I don't think we can do that here. Okay. This would be warning limit. And this would be info limit. All right. Now, this should allow us to still run all the tests. Right? This shouldn't fail anything. At least I hope it doesn't. Of course. Yeah. Now, we don't care about the message, do we? Like here, if I set in the configuration, like what is the actual value of the limit there? Or could we just pass in any value and it doesn't matter? Because we're not testing the string, we're testing the, yeah, this is all feeling a little hokey, but see if this runs. Oh. I don't know when they added that little icon at the bottom with the beaker, like you're testing, but okay, 2 failed. Why did 2 fail? It's trans 13. So those were the info and warning. Okay, well, let's run this in debugger and see what happens. Of course, I'm in the wrong. Yeah, this is taking longer than I expected. So you don't even stop on the debugger. Fine. We'll stop for you. So we should get, okay, so we got the right values. We don't have any diagnostics, so we come through here. Oh, copy paste error. Now, if we say run all tests, crap. That's just a console. Yeah, that's just a performance test. That's okay. Now they all pass. Okay. And I think this is actually a good point for me to stop for now. I didn't finish everything that I wanted to do. I feel like this is a little hokey passing in these values here of just zero, even though the message doesn't matter. So I want to probably on Thursday clean this up a little bit more and spend more time on it. But I want to make sure that, you know, kids are getting up and everything this morning, and especially with my wife not feeling the best. So I think I'm going to stop here for right now. And I will pick this up on Thursday night, all good things considered, if everything goes well. And hopefully I can finish this one out and then spend some time on that rocks improvement issue if I can. I've actually looked at that before and I couldn't figure out how to improve it, but I thought, well, we'll give it another try on a stream and see what we can do. So, thanks again for anybody who was watching either live or if you watch the recorded version later. Do the whole subscribe thing and everything like that. Post any questions and comments, and I will see you hopefully on Thursday. Have a good day.